All right, so I'll go ahead and get us started for tonight's class. Thank you for joining me for tonight's Thursday night Yin class. And these classes are often referred to as Yin recovery classes because I've curated these classes with the intention in mind of offering a space of recovery from 2020. Originally, they were crafted with connection with a few of us who experienced COVID and other illnesses last year, and we're noticing that our physical stamina had changed and our ability to do standing yoga postures was negatively impacted. And so, wanting to craft a yin yoga practice that didn't involve standing postures or inversions, but still allowed for a lot of the benefits of yin yoga. And so, my name is Kim, if we haven't taken a class together. And yin practice, if you've never practiced before, is a practice that we hold postures for 3 to 4 minutes. And in that time, you will use your breath and use just various relaxation techniques to connect with your body and allow yourself to just ease fully into the poses. And as you're easing into these yin poses, you will definitely notice that you might feel like you are in a restorative practice for about 30 seconds of the pose, and then it kind of starts to feel like a lot of deep stretching. And that is the pose. And so the practice of yin and the way that I curate my yin practices is about the idea of kind of riding the wave of sensation. If you think of sensation as a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being this is as far as my body can take me, 11 being pain. We never want to go past 10 at all. In the practices I curate, we try and keep ourselves at around a 6 or a 7, knowing that if you'd like to push yourself farther and feel a deeper sensation because you notice something is stuck in an area of your body, you certainly can. Or if you want to be at a 4 and kind of take this as there's definitely a stretch, but tonight I just really need the meditative relaxation breath work of this practice. All of those are what you need. And I tell everyone that any version of the pose is the pose. You have made it to your first pose, which was making it to class. And your breath is what will guide you through these. And so, if at any time tonight the poses that I offer are not something that you feel like your body needs, please take what your body needs. And I'll stay on after class, as always, for about 5 minutes or so for anyone who has questions or needs to chat or anything like that. And so, once you found yourself in a comfortable seat, go ahead and take a breath and just begin to notice everything that is touching your body. And what I mean by that can be noticing where your body is touching the ground underneath you, noticing the clothing that you're wearing. If you have a pet that joins you during practice, like my dog Tails might join tonight, maybe they have joined you for this opening meditation and you notice how the weight of their body feels or their energy level if it's different from yours. But just begin to notice what's around you, notice what you can feel. And over the course of the next breath or so, if you feel comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes and begin to notice what your breath feels like. Begin to inhale and exhale through your nose if that's comfortable for your body today. And that's the breath that we'll take throughout most of tonight's practice is inhaling and exhaling through our nose. And as you continue noticing that, begin to notice where your breath goes when you inhale. And if this isn't a practice you've done before, that might be something that seems like, well, of course, my breath goes into my lungs. I want to encourage you to begin to deepen your breath and imagine that you can inhale through your nose, fill up your chest and your lungs, and then fill up your belly. So that a deep breath is 3 parts. It's inhaling through your nose, into your chest, and into your belly so that you feel completely full, maybe expanded in some ways. And then with those breaths, just hold it for just a moment at the top and slowly exhale the same way that you inhaled. So exhaling out your belly, your chest, and then out through your nose. And continue breathing in this manner for about another minute or so. Just noticing what it feels like to deepen your breath for the first time in a little bit, maybe the first time today, or first time in a while. And with your eyes closed, if you are interested in trying a breath visualization, I like to take this breath as imagining that I'm filling myself with my favorite color. So I'm inhaling a bright turquoise breath in through my nose, filling up my chest and my heart, and then filling up my belly so that it's filled with turquoise. And then as I slowly exhale, I'm just breathing that out into the space around me so that the space around me in my imagination is my favorite color. And continuing with this breath, if you'd like to add another layer of visualization, imagine yourself that you're sitting at your favorite scene in nature. I often like to imagine myself sitting at the base or behind a waterfall. I live in Oregon, and so the waterfall is in a mossy forest, and there's a lot of new plant life around it due to wildfires over the last few years. And I'm seated at the base of that, just behind it, watching the water cascade down, just simply breathing. Maybe the water is a symbol of just washing away the stress of the day, washing away anything hard, and letting tension go. So just keep breathing in this way, visualizing yourself filling and expanding in your favorite place. And at any time throughout tonight's class, if you find yourself in the poses that we'll be holding for 3 to 5 minutes, losing focus or thinking about something else that you were doing before or something else that you have to do after this class, I encourage you to just come back to either this color visualization or the nature scene visualization and just keep yourself there, ride the sensation that you're feeling in your body, and try to just sit with it and be with it. Yin practices are a practice that I've found can really help me learn to sit with discomfort on the mat and in my physical body so that I can sit with the discomforts that may occur throughout my day. And so before we move into our first posture from this seated meditation, we're just going to stretch out our neck a little bit and do some neck rolls. So on your next breath, go ahead and drop your right ear towards your right shoulder, keeping everything else in your body as it is, maybe even keeping your eyes closed. And just dropping your right ear as close to your right shoulder without lifting up your left shoulder as possible. Noticing what this feels like across the left side of your neck and anywhere else in your body that you're noticing sensation. And then maybe you want to try looking down at your shoulder and see if that changes things in a way that your body feels like it needs, or looking up to the ceiling. So take 5 breaths, stretching into the left side of your shoulder, left side of your neck, deciding where you want your gaze to be, with your eyes open or closed. Taking one more breath, and on the exhale, go ahead and just drop your chin to your chest, looking down, maybe the ground beneath you or internally at your navel. And take 5 breaths here, noticing what it feels like to just look downward, stretching out the back of your neck, just letting your head really dangle with your chin pointed towards your chest. Many of us throughout our day keep our head in either a neutral position or just feeling like we're having to hold it up. So letting it hang can really just release some of that tension in our neck, our upper back, and our shoulders that can lead to migraines, headaches, or other discomfort if we don't notice it. And then in your own time, trace your chin across your neck so that it's draping down, looking over your left shoulder, and then rotate your head so that your left ear is dropped towards your left shoulder this time. Noticing what the right side of your neck feels like. Asking yourself if you'd like to look up towards the ceiling, shifting your head and your gaze, or look down towards your shoulder again. And spend 5 breaths here, stretching out the right side of your neck, right side of the top of your shoulder. In tonight's practice, we'll move from several face down forward folding positions into a couple face up positions on our back. And so I encourage you tonight to notice which of those poses, which of those postures bring you a sense of relief and which ones are harder for you. And you don't need to do anything with that information. And if it's too much to pay attention to it, just be with yourself in the postures. But it's always interesting to notice whether we are feeling more open and expansive or more inward and which thing we need. So take one more breath here. Your left ear drop towards your left shoulder. And then on your next breath, if it feels comfortable and safe for your neck, go ahead and continue that neck rotation around so that you're looking up towards the ceiling above you and your head is dropped back. And in this way, you're opening the front of your throat, front of your chest, and your collarbones. This is a very opposite direction than many of us move our neck throughout the day. So this expansion might feel a little bit uncomfortable, and it also might feel like a sense of relief. So just take a couple breaths here, noticing that it might feel constricted to breathe, but that the opening might feel like a powerful sensation. And then on an inhale, bring your head back up to neutral, eyes open or closed, imagining that you're gazing forward. Just take a breath here in this neutral space, noticing how you feel now. Coming back to noticing what's underneath you and maybe adjusting your body so that you can feel your spine up really tall. And we'll take an inhale breath this time in through our nose, and imagining that this time we inhale through our chest, through our belly, and all the way down into our seat. So we're drawing an energetic line with our breath up and down our spine, just lengthening our spine out in this seated position before we move into our first pose. One more breath in. And then on an exhale, open your mouth and just sigh out your mouth and just let your body just relax fully. Maybe you notice that you drop your shoulders, release some tension. And we'll move into our first fold, our first position, which will be butterfly forward fold. And so the first step of this is just coming into butterfly position. So you'll bring your feet out in front of you so that the soles of your feet are together. And so if you were in a cross-legged position, just uncross your legs, bring your feet out in front of you with your knees wide, like butterfly wings, soles of your feet touching. And you can have your feet close to your body if you would like, or farther away. It just changes which part of your hips will stretch when we fold forward in a moment. And place your hands on your ankles, just wrapping them around. And we'll just take one round of seated butterfly-legged cat-cow. And so we'll take an inhale breath and just bring our chest forward, looking up a little bit more. And then on an exhale, we'll just kind of round our spine and drop our chin to our chest. And then coming back to a neutral spine, as neutral as you can be in this butterfly position. We're just going to take an inhale breath. And then on an exhale, we're just going to fold our upper body forward, keeping our back straight as long as we can. And then when you feel like you can't fold any farther, go ahead and place your hands either on your ankles still, or you can place them on the mat or the ground in front of you, walking them forward like you might into child's pose, and then dropping your head down, letting your neck go, letting it rest, letting it hang. And we'll be in this pose for 3 minutes. So over the next couple of breaths, adjust anything that you need to. Maybe that's bringing your feet closer to your body or farther away. Maybe your hands hold onto your body, or you rest your forearms on the mat. Or if you'd like to add another dimension of relaxation to this, maybe you have a bolster or a prop that you place so that your forehead has something to land on. But make those adjustments and then come into the sensation of this hip opener, some stretching across our back body, and maybe some stretching across the back of our head and the back of our neck. And just let yourself be held by your breath and your body in this first pose. I'd like to share a quote with us tonight from one of my favorite authors, Brené Brown. She has a series of books and writings on living wholeheartedly, living fully, and living vulnerability. And some of the things that she often encourages her readers or listeners, if you're finding her through a podcast or a video to do is to just let go of expectations that we place on ourselves or we feel that the world's placed on us. And one of those is letting go of exhaustion as a status symbol and letting go of productivity as self-worth. And with each of these things, she asks us to cultivate something in replacement of that. And so when we let go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as our self-worth, she encourages us to cultivate play and rest. And so tonight, throughout this practice, I hope that you can cultivate some play and some rest here through these poses. You've chosen to spend this hour with yourself, with your body, and with your breath. And so let it be playful and let it be restful. And those can mean different things to each of us. And so I hope that you find that meaning for you, whether it's imagining yourself in a nature scene, filling up with your favorite color, or simply just using your exhales to allow something to soften in your body and rest. Take from this class what you need tonight. Go as far as you would like to, but not as far as you feel like you're expected to. Coming back to your breath whenever you find your mind wandering. Just being here with yourself. Take about 3 more breaths here in this butterfly forward fold. And then on your next breath, wherever your hands are, plant them back down on the ground in front of you and press into the ground and slowly walk your hands back to your body so that you can bring your spine back up right. And take as much time as you need. Coming out of these yin poses where we hold them for a long time is really important to do so in a safe manner, protecting any of your joints and your muscles, letting your breath guide you. And when you find yourself back upright, go ahead and just bring your feet in, close those butterfly wings, have your feet on the mat, and just place your hands next to your hips and sway your legs side to side. Windshield wipering your knees, windshield wipering your hips, letting things come back to neutral. And then we're going to move into a tabletop position and use some cat cows to wake up our spine before we transition into our next posture. So coming on to your hands and knees, placing your knees underneath your hips, your hands underneath your shoulders. I like to put a blanket down on my mat under my knees just for some extra padding. And cat cow we'll do just 5 different times. And so with our hands planted, we'll just inhale and look up towards the ceiling, dropping our belly, looking up, stretching open the front of our chest, our shoulders. And then exhale, drop your head, curl your spine, reach your heart through the back of your upper back up to the sky. Do this 4 more times on your own. Inhaling, looking up, dropping your belly. Then exhale, looking down, raising your back and your heart. Last one. And then coming back to a neutral position with your spine straight. We're going to move into pigeon position early on in the practice. And sometimes I would guide us through downward dog into this pose. And so you're welcome to do that if that's in your practice. Before tonight's practice, we'll be coming into pigeon from this tabletop position to avoid inversions. And so we'll start with our left leg. So go ahead and shift your weight into your right hand for just a moment. Lift up your left knee and bring it close to your left wrist, opening up your ankle towards your right wrist, tucking your back right toe and shifting it back in space so that you can stretch out that right leg out directly behind you, right out of your hip. And your shin is somewhat parallel to the front of the mat. If that's completely not working with your body tonight, you're welcome to bring your heel in closer to your right hip so that it's adjusted closer in. And then if you would like to or need to add anything, you might want to add a folded up blanket or a block underneath your left hip if it's feeling completely floating in space. But just adjust in any way so that you feel an opening along your right hip and some stretching as well in your left hip while it's also compressed. With your hands out in front of you, take an inhale breath and just look up to the ceiling, opening up the front of that throat again. And then on an exhale breath, we'll crawl our hands out, similar to how we just did in butterfly forward fold. Maybe coming down onto our forearms. Again, always welcome to place props underneath your chest or your forehead if you'd like to add some extra release. And then just drop your head down. Make any adjustments over the next breath or two that you need to be in this posture for a couple minutes. Pigeon is a really deep hip opener, and we're doing it pretty early in our practice. And so if you haven't had a day when you have been active, this might feel more challenging for you. And you might want to take figure 4 lying on your back. And so to do that, you would just lie down on your back with your knees pointed up to the ceiling, feet planted, and lift up your left leg and cross your ankle over your right knee and have a figure 4 position. Each of these will offer a similar stretch. And there's no right or wrong way to do Yin Yoga. The only wrong way to do it is to cause pain to your body. So just make sure that you're taking what you need. Take an inhale breath and open mouth exhale to just let something else soften, settle more into this posture, and just be with your breath and yourself. Coming back to your breath, taking 3 more breaths on this side, letting something soften with your exhale, asking your body where it can just release a little bit of tension, a little bit more if you're noticing that you're holding or gripping anything. And then placing your hands back on the mat if you came down onto forearms, spreading your fingers wide, pushing your hands into the mat. Tuck your back right toes under and just lift up so that you can bring that knee in a little bit, press more into the mat. Bring your right knee back underneath you and lift up your left leg, bring your left knee back under and come back to tabletop position. From this tabletop, we'll flow through 3 cat-cows to come back to neutral. Or if you would like to just do some hip circles where you drop your hips back to your heels, swing them around, you're welcome to take whatever you need to just absorb the effects of that posture. Maybe cat-cows help with wake up your spine a little bit more, but maybe you need some hip circles. Just take what you need for about 30 seconds. You want to look over one shoulder towards one hip, then the other, just wagging your tail. And then in your own time, when you're ready, we'll just do the same thing with our right leg forward this time. So if you prefer to come into this pose from downward dog, you would tuck your toes, lift up your hips and your knees to the sky, hips to the sky. But from tabletop position, we'll just bring our weight into our left hand, lift up our right knee, bring it towards our right wrist, opening up so that that shin is somewhat parallel to the front of the mat, and then tucking the left leg, cueing it back in space. You can always leave your toe tucked if that's more comfortable for your knee. And then adding anything you might need underneath your right hip to make yourself feel more able to be held in this posture. And then with your hands planted, take one inhale breath, looking up and stretching open your throat, front of your chest. And then exhale, walk your hands out in front of you, draping over your right knee this time, coming forward down onto palms, forearms, or anything that you would like to place to catch your chest and your forehead. And in two-sided poses, it's always important to remember that although our bodies may look symmetrical, our internal structures are often not as symmetrical. We use different sides of our body in different ways. Things are just different. And so if you notice that one side of this posture feels different or is easier by your definition than the other, don't make a judgment out of that. Just observe that. And if you feel that you want that to be different, maybe ask yourself, what can you do tomorrow to use your body in a different way so that things feel more balanced? And what I mean by that is maybe if you notice more tension on one side of your body, wondering, is there something that I'm doing during my day that keeps things imbalanced? If you sit at a desk, maybe you can adjust something so that one side of your neck is not as tense as the other. If you drive a lot, there's not much you can do to alleviate that tension, but maybe you do some stretching in a different way. Just observe. We're here to release and let things go and relax, not here to judge ourselves in any way. And if there's nothing you can do to make an adjustment, just observe the difference. Once we observe the difference and we don't judge the difference, that's when things can just become more beautiful in our world. Coming back to your breath, asking your body if there's anything else it can soften on the next exhale. And then on your next breath, go ahead and plant your hands back down, palms on the mat, guiding your upper body back up, tucking your back toe if you had it untucked, shifting that leg so that that knee can come in, and then pressing into the mat, bringing both of your knees back into that tabletop position, taking some cat-cows, hip circles, or tail wags to adjust. Notice any shifts, any changes, any difference feelings in your body. And then we're going to come down onto our bellies into Sphinx pose. And so shifting your legs out behind you, shifting so that you're just lying down onto your belly. But leave your forearms planted on the mat and adjust your elbows so that they're underneath your shoulders. So that if you have your palms out in front of you and you bend your elbows, you can essentially grab onto the opposite elbows with the opposite hands. And then open back up, place your hands, palms down on the mat. And you can just tuck your back toes a little bit so that you can shift your legs back and elongate your legs out of your hips. Then untuck your toes, planting your feet. Take an inhale breath, and you'll just notice that you are essentially holding up your heart and your chest and kind of just shining your heart forward, similar to what we did in that cat-cow and the butterfly forward fold. Maybe you can even adjust so that you can look up again, continuing that opening of the throat, opening of the chest. And then on an exhale breath, we have a couple options to sink down into Sphinx pose. You can allow your chest and your heart to kind of be held in a hammock-like position between your shoulders. So you would just kind of let them sink in and look forward, or you can definitely drop your head down, let your neck go. And then your entire head and your neck and your heart are just held in a hammock between your shoulder blades, but your heart is still moving forward in its own energetic sense. So you're allowing some tension to just release in your upper back, base of your skull, and your neck. We won't be here as long as the other poses. We're just letting Your spine come back in an elongated sense with both of our legs outstretched. And this time with your breath, as you breathe in, just breathe in one long breath all the way down from your nose to your chest to your belly. Notice what that feels like as your belly expands down into the mat. And as you exhale, where does something release? Where can you let go of something that's gripping? Maybe that's allowing your head to sink a little bit farther. Maybe your forehead comes to the mat. Again, remembering that there is no scale of the perfect pose in this practice. Any version of the pose where you're seeking relaxation, sensation, and tension release is your pose. Take 2 more breaths in this posture. And then after that second breath, just press down with your palms and just allow your forearms to come out from underneath you. Just let them go and let one side of your face just rest on the mat. You can have your arms down at your side, just coming into a neutral position for just a moment, lying flat, face down. You can also keep your forehead just down on the mat. Just allow yourself to lie face down for a moment. Breathing, feeling what it feels like to expand the front body into the mat. And exhale, can you sink and allow your back body to sink into your front body? If you had one side of your head face on the mat, maybe you flip it over. See what it feels like to twist your neck in this way. And then bring your arms into goalpost arms on the mat. And so what I mean by that is bring your hands so that they're making kind of a 4, and your elbows are coming directly out of your shoulders to the side, and then you're bending your arms at a 90-degree angle so that your palms are flat on the mat, both hands flat down. And we're going to come into broken wing pose. And this pose is a huge chest opener, so please be mindful not to push yourself to a point of pain, even if you don't feel like you're going very, quote, far into the pose. We're going to roll over to our left side first, and so watch me or listen to my guides before you come into this posture, just to make sure that you are going somewhere safe for your body. And so from this lying down position, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just tint up my right fingers into kind of little spider arms. And I'm going to press them into the mat so that I can shift my body and roll over onto my left side, keeping my left arm in the same position that it was in. And so I'm now feeling a huge sensation across the front of my chest. Maybe your back opens up a little bit more. And as you roll over, you'll feel this opening in your chest, and you might feel unstable with your legs, like imbalanced and shaky. And that's okay. But if you would like to feel more balanced, maybe you bend your bottom leg, which is your left leg, and then stack your right leg a little bit on top of that. And you can keep your fingers tented on your right arm, or you can bring them along your body and lie them on there. So go ahead and on your next breath, roll open so you're in this broken wing chest opening pose with your left side of your chest opening a ton, left side of your face lying on the mat, you've rolled onto your left side. We'll just be here for 1.5 minutes on this side. Chest openers can stir up in the same way that hip openers can, a lot of emotions. And so if at any point tonight you notice yourself feeling not only a wave of physical sensation, but also emotional sensation, I encourage you to sit with that. Not necessarily try to analyze it, explore it, or fix it, but just let it be there. We need to release emotion from our bodies and our minds. I use the analogy in my work during the day where our emotions can sometimes become like a Coke bottle or a soda bottle. They're shaken up, and Yin Yoga especially can be that practice of just twisting open the lid just a little bit so that the fizz starts to come out and things don't explode on ourselves and the world and the other people around us. And so allow riding that sensation to be just twisting that lid open a little bit, letting it go in a mindful, intentional way. so that nothing explodes, no mess is created. You can still enjoy the moment. So take another couple breaths here, riding that sensation, coming back to a deep breath. And then on an exhale breath, we'll just roll ourselves back so that we unroll completely face down again. Take a couple breaths here in a neutral position. Maybe you want to shift so that you're in alligator position with both of your palms stacked and your forehead face down on those. Coming back, noticing, being with yourself. And then when you're ready, this time we'll be rolling to our right side. So bring your hands back out into those goalpost arms. This time tent up and spider your left hand on the mat or the floor just outside of your mat. And then shift over so that you're rolling onto your right hips this time, rolling open your right chest and adjusting your legs so that you need to feel more balanced so that you can stay in this position. Feeling that opening again in these two-sided postures. Don't judge yourself. Just be aware that your body is full of differences, full of things to explore, and let your breath allow you to explore it. Take 3 more breaths here in this posture, seeing how deep of a breath you can take, seeing where that deep breath travels in your body. Maybe you're able to come back to that nose, chest, belly breath, or maybe you're just breathing deeply to make it through these last 30 seconds. It's your practice. And then when you're ready, just coming slowly, rolling back to center, face down on the mat, planting your hands underneath your forehead, maybe with the opposite hand on top this time. And taking a couple moments to rest before we move into our face up practice in this class, in the second half. Just letting the effects of things soak in so far. Noticing now how things feel underneath you. The ground, the mat, the earth. And then in your own way, in your own time, just shift so that you roll over, so that you're just laying face up this time. Making sure that you have a block nearby you. We'll need that for a pose at the end of class. Just shift so that you're lying on your back. Bring one hand to your belly and one hand to your chest or your heart. Come back to that knee, nose, chest, belly breath. Maybe you breathe in through your nose and notice your breath filling up your first hand, then your second hand. Holding and then exhaling from your belly, your chest, and your nose. I'm just going to come into banana pose or lying crescent moon pose first. Just stretch out our body. And on our way there, I like to come through lightsaber pose. And so go ahead and with your legs stretched out as long as they can be, go ahead and inhale and reach your arms above your head, stretching them out. And imagine that you can become a lightsaber or a beam of light or just a long body. Inhale and stretch your toes as far away as you can from your fingertips, pointing them, reaching your fingertips really far as you possibly can. And then exhale, sigh it out and drop everything, release to the mat. Do that one more time. Inhale, stretch as far, lengthen yourself as much as you can. And then exhale, sigh it out your mouth, let it go. And this is the two-sided pose again. You're gonna come to the right side first. So lift up your right leg and move it to the right corner of your mat. Then lift up your left leg and follow it next to it. So we're gonna do the same thing with our arms. Lift up your right arm, shift it over to the right top corner of your mat, and then shift the left arm next to it. Trying to keep our hips neutral in the center and both of our shoulders grounded on the mat. And this is step one of this posture. If you would like to take it somewhere else, you are welcome to cross one foot, one ankle over the other. Try out both of them and decide which one you prefer. And then you're also welcome to grab one wrist with the other. Again, try out both and see which one you prefer the sensation of. You'll notice an opening along the entire left side of your body in this posture. And depending upon which ankle you have crossed, you might notice some different stretches across your hips or your IT band. And as you take an inhale breath, you're noticing how much you can expand the entire left side of your body. How much can an inhale breath expand? Space between your ribs, space along your hip, maybe all the way down the left side of your leg, across your knee, into your ankle and your toes. And then as you exhale, what can you sink farther into the mat? How can you get your hips and your shoulders closer to the mat so that you're not necessarily rolling onto your right side? Just shifting our legs and our arms to the right so that we can become a moon or a banana. We'll be here for a couple minutes. Face up, heart open. And I mentioned in the beginning to observe which postures felt more at ease for you. And I often find yin to be a very vulnerable practice. And sometimes I feel more vulnerable in the face down position than emotions well up during child's pose and pigeon. And other days I feel incredibly vulnerable in these opening face up positions, my chest just bared out, my heart open to the world. It just depends on how your life is as to which feels more. Some days both feel incredibly vulnerable or neither, and I'm just there for the physical practice. Coming back to yourself through your breath, letting these practices give you what you need. Take one more breath here on the side, and if you're grasping onto one wrist or had your ankles crossed, go ahead and just uncross them and have your hands next to one another, ankles next to one another. And then on an exhale breath, lift up your left leg, bring it back to center, followed by the right, and the left arm, followed by the right. We'll come back to that lengthening out lightsaber pose before we move to the other side. So inhale, stretch yourself out as long as you can. Reach your arms out as far as you can above your head, feet as far as you can away from your body. Then exhale, sigh it out. Let yourself come back to lying just flat on your mat. And then we'll move into the other side. So lifting up our left leg, Moving it to the left side of our mat, right leg followed by it, then left arm, moving it to the left side of the mat, followed by the right. Maybe you would like to bend your elbows above your head in this pose so that you can kind of arc a little bit more. That's okay. And then crossing an ankle over the other if you'd like to. Again, trying to keep both shoulders, both hips planted on the mat. Noticing your right side body this time, all the way from your fingertips, down the side of your body, down your hip, thigh, knee, down to your toes. Or can you let something soften on an exhale breath? And we're just coming back to your breath. Maybe you would like to return now to that nature scene from the beginning. Maybe now you find yourself lying in a favorite place. Just soaking in the sunshine, if it's sunny, the breeze, if there is one. Just letting yourself be held by your mat or the earth in your mind's eye. Taking one more breath here on this side. With that breath, uncrossing your ankles if you had them crossed, letting go of the wrist. And then bringing your right leg back to the center, followed by your left. Right arm back to the center, followed by the left. And one more time through that lengthening out, lightsaber pose. Toes away from fingertips, stretching long, maybe feeling more length on both sides now. And then let it go. Curl your knees into your chest. Wrap your arms around them. Give yourself a hug. And just rock side to side. Just went from stretching completely out to curling completely in. Notice what it feels like to hug yourself and bring everything in, imagining that you're bringing in all that good energy, bringing in anything that you need more of in your life. And then we're going to come into a lying spinal twist. And so from here, there's a couple options. I like to come into a supine twist with my legs in eagle legs. Got a downward dog demonstration here. And so to come into this with eagle legs, what you would do is we're just going to be allowing our knees to fall to one side or the other. So my knees are going to go to the right first. And so I'm going to plant my feet back on the mat, lift up my left leg, cross it over my right, so that I'm now kind of in an eagle leg position. And then I'm going to press my foot into the mat, shift my hips a little bit to the left so that they can fall, my knees can fall over to the right. And from here, if you have your knees falling to the right and you would like to add something like a block or a bolster underneath them to catch them, you're welcome to do that. You're also welcome to just have your knees stacked and let them drop to the right, trying to keep your chest pointed up towards the ceiling, both shoulders on the mat. And we'll just be here for about 1.5 minutes on each side so that we can have time for our final posture of choice. So let your knees fall to the right. Let this twist allow you to kind of wring out anything else that's been gripping in your body. Twists can be really great in digestion, can be really great in just getting anything else moving that needs to be moving in our bodies, physically and energetically. And if you have your knees and legs crossed, don't bring your knees back up to center just yet, but go ahead and uncross them so that your knees can just be stacked, dropped over to the right for a breath or two. And then on your next inhale, or when you feel ready, go ahead and activate your core and inhale, bring your knees back up to center, feet planted, knees pointed up to the sky. And bring the soles of your feet out to the edge of your mat and allow your knees to just drop in towards the center. Allow this position to just let you come back to neutral for a breath or two before we shift into the other side. I highly recommend doing twists at any time that you maybe have access to a floor and feel a little bit of anxiety coming in throughout your day, feel a little bit of overwhelm. For me, these twists can be a great way to just reset. And so we'll be coming into our other side, so lifting up your feet, bringing them back together. And this time, if you'd like to cross your legs, we'll lift up your right leg, cross it over your left, press into the mat and shift your hips a little bit to the right, and then drop your knees over to the left side of your mat. And again, observing any differences on each side, not judging yourself if things feel different, adding anything to catch your knees if you need to. And you can bring your hands anywhere that's comfortable in these positions. Maybe you want to have them over your head. Maybe you have them somewhere on your body or your prop nearby. Go ahead and uncrossing your legs if you had them crossed, leaving them lying to the left for just a couple breaths. And then on an inhale breath, bring your knees back up to center. And our final pose tonight will be a pose of your choice between two options that I like to use as a final opener. The choices will be between fish and bridge pose. And so I will model each of these and you will have the option to choose which is what you believe that you need tonight. And we'll spend a couple minutes in that. And so one is a hip opener, one is a chest opener. And so I'll demonstrate bridge pose first because I'll be spending my final few moments in fish pose. And so bridge pose is a pose where you'll need a block if you would like to take it in a more restorative posture instead of just holding it. And so from lying on your back, you will just have your knees pointed up towards the ceiling like they might already be, lying flat on your back. You'll press your feet into the mat, lift up your hips so that you can slide a block underneath your lower back at your sacrum area, making sure not to go too high or too low. And then letting your hips settle back down onto that prop. And you can leave your legs as they are with your knees up towards the ceiling, or you can stretch them out so that this opens up more across the front of your hips. It's definitely way more of an opener if you do this. Or you can bring your knees in, point your legs up towards the sky, and just rest in this pose and hang out there for the last few minutes before we move to Shavasana. Or fish pose, you'll have to, from your back, just roll up, right? Curl your knees in, roll up a little bit. And you'll actually need 2 blocks for this, I apologize. So you'll have your blocks set up so that one of your blocks will catch your shoulders, one of your blocks will catch your head. And then coming back to your knees pointed up to the ceiling, feet planted, press your hands behind you and slowly lie yourself back so that the first block comes right around your shoulder blades. And you'll definitely feel an opening across your back, maybe across your heart, across your chest, and then lie your head back on that other block so that it catches your head. And here in fish pose, you can have your arms in various places to adjust how that stretch feels for you. Maybe you have them on your body to regulate your breath because this is quite an opener for you. Or you might have them above you to open up more of your shoulders, or out to the sides for your chest. Experiment with what you would like. And again, you can also have your legs outstretched, knees pointed up, or soles of your feet back together in butterfly with your knees out wide in somewhat of a hip opener. So take what you need. We'll spend about 2 minutes here and then come into a brief Shavasana. Knowing this is your last pose, taking from it what you need. Always coming to an open mouth sigh, exhale to let something soften if you need that to settle in. And if you're in bridge pose and you did one thing with your legs and you'd like to try something else, we're about halfway through, so feel free to make that adjustment. Same with fish pose if you'd like to try a different arm position. Or leg position. Just let yourself be held by these props. Let them, in your breath, open up your body deeply. And take 2 more rounds of breath. And when you're ready to come out from bridge pose, you'll just bring your feet back down to the mat if you had them off of the mat. Press your feet into the mat to lift up your hips and move that block out from underneath you, coming to lying flat on your back. Bringing your knees in or taking any other movements or wiggles that you need before Shavasana. And with fish pose, being really mindful as we come out of this, as it can be quite a heart opener and a chest opener. Press your elbows into the mat, tuck your chin into your chest, press your elbows in just enough so that you can lift up and move those props out from underneath you. And again, coming back to lying on your back, making any additional poses that you need. If you'd like to bring your knees in, wiggle around. And then ultimately settling into Shavasana with our legs stretched out long in front of us, not in that same way of lightsaber, just relaxing, releasing, letting your body just drape onto the mat, let your arms come down at your sides or maybe on your body. No need to follow any specific breath practice for the next 3 minutes. Just let yourself be here in Shavasana, letting everything that we've done together over the last hour integrate. Let your body soak it in. And be grateful for this choice that you made to nourish yourself. Shavasana. And coming back to that quote and message of encouragement that I shared at the beginning from Brene Brown, again, reminding yourself that it's okay to let go of exhaustion as a status symbol and productivity as your self-worth. Ask yourself, where in this next week or so can you cultivate more play and more rest? And in this last minute here in Shavasana, notice how tonight maybe you cultivated some play and some rest, spending some time trying some new things, moving your body in ways you might not have in a little bit. And my grandfather used to write and perform music, and I sometimes like to weave in lyrics from his music into my practice when they feel right. And so, as we look ahead to the season in the spring and things start to shift more into an active season, I come back to a song lyric from one of his songs. And the song lyric says, "When burdens seem to overcome, there's a higher power." And that can mean different things to different people. But I encourage you to consider that your breath can be your higher power. When you feel overwhelmed and burdens seem to overcome you, remember there's a higher power in breathing through the waves of life, the waves of the moments, and just letting them wash over and through you, not take you. So, coming back to your body, wiggling your fingers and your toes, maybe windshield wiping your legs, ankles side to side, doing some wrist circles. And then in your own way, in your own time, roll over to one side, taking a moment on their side, maybe in a fetal position, and then press yourself up into a comfortable seat of your choice. And we'll close our practice with a breath together. Bringing your hands somewhere that's comfortable on your body, maybe either on your knees, maybe palms together at your heart center, or hands stacked on top of one another. With your eyes open or your eyes closed, take a big inhale through your nose, filling up your chest and your belly. And just holding that for a couple seconds, being grateful that you can choose to breathe, choose to take this time. And then exhale, letting it all go, letting your breath and your body and your shoulders soften. Thank you for choosing to take this time for yourself and choosing to spend it with me. I appreciate each of you. Thank you. Have a great night.